Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is SHOWstudio, and we have a panel here today. It's morning here, of course, she's interrupting me. It's very difficult. I'm sorry about that. We have a panel here to look at the first day of London Fashion Week for men, and also see what the next 2 days are going to show us. And I'm very pleased and impressed with the people we have, and I think they're quite impressed with themselves as well. I hope so. And I'm going to ask them briefly to introduce themselves.
My name's Carri Munden. I have a unisex luxury brand called Cassette Player. I focus on menswear, and I also work as a stylist and as an art director.
Thank you.
My name is Tobin. I have a design background, having worked for big fashion houses in Italy and London, and I'm now the manager of Selfridges Bespoke.
Excellent.
My name is Mandi Lennard. I'm a fashion PR and I run a fashion consultancy called Mandi's Basement.
My name's Ashley Smith. I'm a part of Ellador PR, and we work with younger and emerging brands.
Thanks very much, all of you. In a very short while, we're going to be joining the Lou Dalton show. We've got them on screen here, and they are just the audience, looking a bit sleepy, is beginning to drift in. Until the actual lights go down and the show starts, I thought it might be interesting if we talk generally about our expectations for London menswear and what we felt London menswear last season was like, and generally give the viewer some idea of what we think it's all about. Ash, would you like to start? Think about last season, and what you think has come out of it.
I think what's good about London Collections Men is because you have got, obviously there's designers who are showing here in London who have come from abroad, kind of some big international brands and stuff. Then you've also got so much young talent, so there's a really good breadth of styles. There's a lot of things covered by London Collections Men.
How do you think it links with the women's? Is there the same sort of London persona in menswear as we see in women's wear?
I think,
or is it a different story?
I think there's obviously still a London persona, and I think there is still, whether it's something that people support or not, I think always in London there is a focus on emerging talent. There's so many initiatives here to support emerging talent and stuff. So I guess in that respect there are similarities.
Carri, do you ever feel thanks very much, do we ever feel that there's too much emerging talent? There's too much, it's like sort of if you have a flower garden, if you have a mass of flowers, you don't notice any particular flowers.
I don't think there's too much. I think that's really exciting that London does have that. That's really special, and I think what's really unique about London is that there's a network to support that talent here, which you don't have in like Paris or New York. So no, I don't think you have too much.
Mandy, no one has done more for young designers than you have in the past. You've worked very hard with them, and I have to say this, and I want the world to know, often with no money at all, just because you believed in them.
Don't give the game away, Colin.
Now you're so grand, you need lots of money, I'm sure. But seriously, do you think that the talent that we're looking at now, coming out in menswear, is equivalent to the talent that came out when you were first involved with young people like
very
Mr.
much
McKay?
so.
You think it's that
very
strong?
Much so.
Do you?
This is the reason why this Men's Fashion Week has had to happen, because it grew very quickly out of the dedicated day that was tacked onto the women's schedule. And I think that this season is testament, when you look at the 3 days, how there's kind of a really good balance of emerging talent, more mainstream, and a very, very high end as well. So it kind of creates this lovely electricity, which is real London. And also the first one was last season, and it was really exciting because it was one of the first fashion weeks where everyone was on Twitter. So I think that that added a different dimension to it, and it actually gave a lot of the fashion press a voice who may have not had a voice before. Because some of the teams have a men's fashion person, but actually a lot of the main fashion desks the women cover the men's as well, and it was very interesting for me to see these women's fashion editors comment on menswear.
And traditionally, of course, newspapers in particular are very leery about menswear. They don't really think it's sexy, you know.
I was involved with Man starting a couple of years ago, which was the first seeds of this. Lulu Kennedy felt very, very strongly. Carrie probably remembers this because Lulu was involving you in the first Man.
Yeah.
And Lulu went to Top Man and said, you know, we really need to do support men's designers. And it's taken off really quickly.
Jack, you have a design background, as you've just said, and you're also in retail. How many of the designers you're going to be looking at this week will you actually think of stocking? I mean, how feasible is it to take a very small company, you know, almost a one-man band, and put your money behind them and have faith that they'll be able to deliver and they'll be able to get the clothes made?
I think because of this platform and seeing it in its second time now, I think it's more feasible than ever now. And I think in particular Selfridges, within its newly launched designer room for men, is seeing more and more a customer that knows about these people, and they're not necessarily a fashionista who follows this. It's a man that is picking up on it more and more and hearing these names. So I think because of that, they're willing to take more risks on people that do have very, very small units and very small business growing. So I think definitely this helps enormously to get these names out there and get these names stocked.
If we pull back from the business and what's happening on the inside of fashion, as it were, in the next few days, how much influence do you think a men's fashion week or 3 days or whatever has on the guy who might actually be buying clothes in Selfridges?
I think the key point actually is the press, and the reason, that I mentioned Man, the original Man, you know, those few first Man shows, was that you know, we used to go and see the fashion departments at the main newspapers, and some of them, you know, just didn't have the scope to cover menswear. You know, and not only that, but you don't realise the internal politics at a newspaper. The fashion department might want to support the menswear, but the editor of the paper, who is somebody so far removed from fashion, just won't want them to cover men's, won't get it. So the last few years has actually been this kind of almost like hammering down those doors to say, hang on a minute, there is incredible menswear here, there's the demand, the buyers, people want to come in, the commerce. And I have to say, just looking at all the coverage this weekend from Friday, there was a fabulous piece on Lou Dalton in The Independent, and everybody over the weekend has covered very broadly.
Really?
Yeah, very democratically.
I looked in the Sunday Times and The Observer. I didn't find anybody.
Yes.
Really?
Michael Hennigan did a piece on the men's
In
trends.
Style?
Yes.
Gosh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
In the actual paper in The Observer, there was something yesterday.
Oh, right, not Style magazine. Because that's really
Sunday
where it's
Times
got
Style.
to be. It can't be in a fashion supplement for your average man outside London, perhaps. Would you agree with that, Ash?
Well, obviously it's happening in London, so it's important to consider what is happening in London and how it's going out to the public here in the UK. But a lot of the brands showing at London Collections Men, a lot of them have the majority of their stockings and stuff internationally, and through the international press and stuff, there are customers out there for it, like over in the Far East and in the Middle East even. People are selling clothes and the information is getting out there, and they're kind of, every season they're selling more and more and more to those international stockists. So I think it's important to think about how it's being received internationally and how these brands are being communicated internationally as well.
Jack, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to actually mention, sorry to talk over you, Colin.
No, please.
We should mention that Lou Dalton has got incredible distribution for someone relatively new.
Well, she's been going since 2005.
Yes.
You know, that's,
but the goalposts that she's got are incredible. She's got IT in Hong Kong, Beams. In London, she's got Dover Street Market. She's
5 or 6 in Japan stockists, I think.
She's with Liberties as well.
Yeah, Liberty are really excited about her, and she's also done a T-shirt collaboration with Harvey Nichols, and I think there's a couple of others, but she's really hitting some very strong, for PR, you know, these are very impressive stockists she's got.
Yeah. Well, she's up and running. She's there, isn't she, really? It's just a question of how skillfully or otherwise she builds up the business. I mean, it's all there. Really.
It's kind of that point again, is when do we stop calling someone new as well?
Exactly.
Because she's not really new, but then maybe to some people she is. So
I mean, obviously it's new when you compare it to Prada. So
Sure.
I think that's why internationally
Yeah.
people look to London like, oh, it's a new designer. But I think it is frustrating for designers in London when they're constantly told that they're new and they're referred to as new and they're featured as new.
I
And
think
it's
it's a
like,
bit
well,
different
actually,
though now, isn't it? Because they've upped the production. It's not like the old days where, you know, Julie Gilhart at Barney's wouldn't buy any of the British designers because, you know, if they didn't deliver on time, that area in the store was going to be empty.
Absolutely.
I think they're a lot more responsible and running the business much more professionally earlier on than...
Do any of you know where most of the young designers' clothes are actually being made? Are they being made, because they're obviously very small runs, are they being made in factories in England or Turkey or
most
where?
of, I mean, I worked for a new gen designer for a couple of seasons, and most of it was made in London. Some of the leather was made in Italy, and that was the only place where it was made overseas.
Right. When you get to the level of Lou, who we're going to see in just a very few minutes, I think, she's presumably too big now to have her clothes made. She needs too many clothes for them to be made in England or in
I think she
London.
still
Would you
produces
think?
in the UK.
What?
I think she still produces in the UK.
Oh, really?
I think especially for menswear
Yeah.
designers though as well, it's good to keep it in the UK because the
But-
made in Britain.
Absolutely.
But,
I think
cost,
it's
but
important.
cost-wise, it's actually increasingly cost-effective for them to have it made because what's been happening is just before the shows, they're all panicking like crazy because they're waiting for those vital pieces for the show. They arrive from their factory in Hong Kong or Bali or wherever, and it's wrong. Whereas Christopher Kane said in that Sarah Moore article in the Daily Telegraph last year that they actually like having some of their production in the UK now because they can control it and have the
Sure.
relationship with the person
Exactly.
who's doing it.
Exactly.
I make in the UK, and most of the designers that I know young designers do also produce in the UK. And I think that globally that is an asset, as you were saying, like made in the UK, especially with the like heritage brands and knitwear. And I would really love to do, actually the only thing I don't do in the UK is my knitwear, which I have to do in Hong Kong, but I would love to do knitwear in the UK. It's just impossible.
At this point,
Yeah.
might change.
Knitwear's always a problem though, it's very expensive
Yeah.
with short runs.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But then last season, I was really impressed with Prince Charles doing the knitwear campaign, and I think things could change.
Fingers crossed. I do think, whenever I think about new start-up countries or start-up sections of the fashion scene in countries, I always go back to the Italian. I think we're about to start, actually. We'll come back to this after we've seen Lou.
Everybody's there. It's quite amazing seeing them all turn out.
Yes.
I think they all enjoy seeing each other as well because
Well,
there aren't a lot of men's
there's
events.
an excitement of the new, isn't there? You've got to be there. You know, you had to be there, as it were. Right, come on, Lou, darling. Let's have it. How late?
15 minutes, I think.
That's not bad.
I like the logo, it's very iconic.
Yes, it's good. Yes, it's the succinctness of men, not menswear, you know. I think
There's
it's
a bit of
good.
a problem with the hashtag with the London Collections men though. Everyone's doing LC :M, and of course the colon doesn't show up in the hashtag. Actually, the official hashtag is London Collections, but it's very long and no one can be bothered.
No, quite.
Some people bother, but it's a tricky one.
I have to say though, I think the branding that the London British Fashion Council have done for this overall is very good, very slick.
It's not just slick, Jack, it's immensely confident.
Yes.
It's really confident.
Yeah.
And it seems a silly thing to say, but I think that this is a reflection of the amazing year London had last year, you know, with the Jubilee, with all the rain, and then, of course, the Olympics, which I think were way beyond anyone's expectations.
Yeah.
And I do think these things have an effect across
Yeah,
everything.
And
they do.
there's gonna be a lot
We're
of
seeing
They
the
have a
confidence.
cultural effect, you
Yeah,
know.
and it gives a confidence to kind of everything that we do in a public platform, we feel that we can do it well in this as well. You know, we're
well, ultimately, people are looking to the UK for things at the moment. It's still hot. People are. Do you know what I mean? You put London at the start of something, and people tune in.
Do you think some of it is the fact that that what's happened? We seem to be waiting a long time for Poland. But do you think some of it is the fact that we now have really a very vibrant fashion magazine thing, and we've started with a classic sort of English suit approach, but not quite.
Very cropped trousers as well.
Yeah.
She's known for her colour blocking, and you can see she's done it quite subtly there.
Yes. She's very fond of brown, isn't she? Tan sort of colours.
She spends a lot of time in the Shetlands. I think she had a boyfriend there.
Oh, right.
And she was really she found it really beautiful, the rugged terrain and the rough landscape.
Absolutely.
I have to say, similar to her last collection, actually, it's got the colours are quite tonal, nothing too extreme.
No, there's nothing that hits you in the face.
But
really?
I think that's good within Menswear stuff, because for the male customer and stuff, people don't want to go mad.
She's thinking of her customer, which is
I'm
great.
sure at some point in the show there'll be a colour pop at some stage, just to accent the show.
But she's leading us into it very gently, you know. Nothing to frighten the lads, as it were.
I mean, what I think is good about Lou's stuff is that you can wear it here in London, but if you're outside of London or if you're in another country, you can wear it. You can still look good and confident. It's not out of place anywhere.
And also that sweater, I mean, someone of my age could have worn that sweater in the country.
The soundtrack, is it Jim Stanton from Horsemeat Disco? She gets him to do the music, and she likes going to those club nights. And it's quite a low-key soundtrack, isn't it?
It is. But that's
appropriate to the clothes.
I was going to say, it's absolutely right for the clothes. Really, there's nothing to frighten the horses, is there?
No.
You know, anyone watching this who isn't a particularly strong fashion person would say, yeah, I can get away with that. Might be a bit nervous about the velvet.
It's funny saying that, because she did say in one of the interviews she's done that she was inspired by Local Hero, that 1983 Scottish movie.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of patching on the sweaters.
Yes.
And tweeds. I think her dad was a teddy boy, so she's very inspired by him too.
Right. Well, Mandi, you are marvellous. You know a hell of a lot. Very impressive. What sort of price do these sort of clothes sell for? Maybe I should ask Jack as well.
Perhaps.
I was going to say, I think the suits maybe are about £1,000. And then knitwear probably about £500-600.
Those pants are quite punky, aren't they?
Well, they're in tartan.
They've got panels on the front.
What are we thinking? We're sort of quarter of the way through, or maybe halfway through. What are we thinking? Are we thinking it's strong beginning to London?
I think it's very grown up and quite sophisticated, but there's elements coming through now where it's getting a little bit more London in the kind of stereotype. In terms of, I'm seeing injections of kind of, like you just said, punk coming through. It's getting a bit more.
With clues.
Yeah.
And little half belts at the back of the jackets. I think you concentrate more on the detail when it's kind of pared down like that.
Are you saying that if you were in a position to edit it, what about you, Carrie? If you were in a position to edit it, would you take out this tartan? Do you think it doesn't develop what the rest of it is showing us?
I'd have to see the full collection, but at the moment I like that. I
think, like it?
Yeah, it's like.
What about you?
Freshness. It's a fresh look.
I think it's great for a catwalk. I think
you can't. Think
I think for a show, for a catwalk show, you can't just send a plain coloured thing down the catwalk, look after look.
I think that's the thing. When you put a show together, you have those looks. They're working in the catwalk sense. If I was looking at it as a lineup, I probably would maybe want to edit those out, or not buy those pieces.
The other thing is, with like kind of more kind of classic style clothing and stuff and tailoring it is difficult to understand just how good something is from seeing it on a catwalk, because you have to have it there in front of you. You have to be able to put it on its fabrics.
I know from doing showrooms with Lou that her construction is beautiful, and I love all the fabrics she chooses. And
See, I think the interesting thing about Lou is she's got her fan base now. You know, she's got the stockist, she's got the buyer, she's got the customer, and she's got the press. So she's proved that point. So I think now she just needs to illustrate continuity more than...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is what has worried me with women's wear in the last few years. There's no continuity. I mean, poor Christopher Kane, someone advises him to change every season, so you don't know what he stands for.
And it really does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where you don't know where you're at anymore.
And you don't know what he stands for.
Maybe there's the odd season as a customer that you're not going to go for either.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a strange sort of policy. But this is very coherent.
I think this is great. I
very
think that
tight,
if you're a Lou Dalton customer, there's a fabulous...
Or I think if you're not a Lou Dalton customer already, there's plenty in there that people can buy into.
Absolutely.
Strong outerwear as well.
You know, I was just going to say, some of that outerwear, even I would look at it at my age, you know. Maybe not that.
It's interesting how she's injected that fabric into the collection, because she started off just with the trousers and now she's doing like more of a whole look for it.
And you know, it started you saying, oh, what do we think of it? And then suddenly these touches have appeared. Yeah. So it's clever editing.
It's a very intelligently presented statement, it seems to me.
Yeah, I think this is a show for somebody that's grown more confident and knows what they're doing now, and it's also more commercial as well. They know they've got pieces in there that the buyers are going to like. And
there's nothing to frighten the horses.
No.
And it's not over-styled
either. Tomorrow, when someone in Aberdeen is looking at it all, in Penzance, they would say, oh, Jesus Christ, who would ever imagine that we would wear this? No, I think it's lovely.
I think the models look really clean cut, and I think after all the kind of, rough grooming, this looks really fresh, having very clean cut models.
Yeah,
so there we go.
And that says something about London, where it's going as well. I think that it's going slicker,
very
more polished.
Haircuts.
Everyone always associates that with New York, and now it's kind of maybe that's London's time to go a little bit more professional like that.
Sharper, cleaner, and fresher, really.
Well, I think the brands as well are growing up. People who have been showing now for 2-3 years, seasons, whatever, the brand is maturing.
Here we go.
Round of applause for me.
Right. Here we go.
Sorry.
It's okay. It was
nice to see
it was lovely.
And I'm thrilled for her. I think that's great. There's...
Yeah, I think we're all very happy about this.
Yes.
Great beginning.
What a lovely
she's
start
pulled
to
it
the
off.
week.
She really has.
Great beginning to the week.
And London should be proud to have her on this schedule, I think.
And I think it's rather nice to have a woman designer for men showing first.
Yeah. She's very good friends with a lot of the designers too. She's quite a popular girl, When you go out, you want to see her, and she's invited to a lot of parties, and we were saying earlier, she's good value.
Mm-hmm. I think that's another thing that's very unique to London. All the designers are friends, and there's no competitiveness.
She was tweeting this morning about, supporting her friends and wishing everyone good luck.
Well, I think it's... Go on. No,
I was just going to say, I think people have asked me that before, but I think it's because everyone is so different that there's not that competitiveness, and you do support each other.
I think as well, with obviously the London Collections men coming at this time of the year, it's maybe been a tricky time of year and stuff, and I feel like the whole industry has, from like the British Fashion Councils, the initiatives, the PRs, the designers, everyone's really grouped together to put on a show of London Collections men, and to bring it all together in time, and just to kind of promote Britain and British menswear in that way. And
that's good, because in a way they've taken a risk. I mean, it's so close after the Christmas break.
But it's so admirable how they've gone for it.
Yeah, but they've really gone for it. Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was what was brilliant about the first one. It was so majestic and confident, and it was world class straight away. It was world class. You had someone like Bruce Pask from Team Magazine, New York Times, tweeting about how he could charge his mobile phone at his seat, and I was thinking, London, that's cool that we did that. Good. Well, I think that's a very good start, and you've given us a very good start. Thank you all very much indeed. I've enjoyed it, and I think you have as well. Thank you very much.